If your heart is tired and your mind is loud, come closer. There's something Joel wanted you to know next. Something deeper, something quieter, something most people never discover until life has humbled them enough to listen. In part 1, we explored how problems dissolve when consciousness shifts. But Joel's teaching does not end there. That was the doorway. Now, in part 2, you step inside. Because once you learn how to dissolve a problem, you are ready for the deeper truth. Life was never asking you to become a good problem solver. Life was asking you to become awake. Awake to the presence that has carried you through every heartbreak. Awake to the love that has never once left your side. Awake to the quiet intelligence that breathes your lungs, beats your heart, and guides your steps even when you think you're lost. If you are here right now, even if you arrived through pain, you are ready. Joel Goldsmith taught that most people live their entire lives managing pain, fear, family, finances, and aging, yet never discover the one thing that makes everything change. You are not the mind. You are the awareness noticing the mind. And when you begin to live from that awareness, not just visit it, your life, your relationships, your health, your peace, your very existence begins to unfold in a new way. There comes a point in every spiritual seeker's journey, often around midlife or later, where solving problems no longer satisfies the soul. You fix one issue and another shows up. You heal one relationship but another becomes strained. You get through one crisis and another arises before you catch your breath. Eventually, you begin to sense it. The real journey was never about solving life. It was about seeing through it into the deeper reality beneath. Joel Goldsmith called this awakening living the mystical life, a life where you don't move from fear to solution, but from presence to understanding to quiet confidence in something deeper than the human story. And so in this part 2, I want to take you beyond the first stage, beyond problem dissolving, beyond spiritual technique, into the next level Joel reserved for those who were truly ready, the level of living as awareness itself. But before we go deeper, I want you to hear a story. A real, quiet, human story, because sometimes truth enters the heart better through a life lived than through a concept explained. Her name was Margaret. She was 62, a retired nurse, living alone in Oregon after losing her husband to cancer 2 years earlier. She had spent most of her adult life caring for others, her patients, her children, her elderly parents, and when the house became quiet again, the silence felt like a weight she didn't know how to carry. People told her to stay busy, to join clubs, to move on, to take trips she never had time for. But what she didn't tell anyone, not even her closest friend, was that the deepest ache she carried wasn't a grief. It was fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of aging alone. Fear of becoming irrelevant. Fear that the best chapter of her life had already been lived. One evening, while searching for comfort, she found a recording of Joel Goldsmith speaking softly about the presence within. She didn't understand all the words, but something in the tone touched her. It was like hearing a truth she had once known but somehow forgotten. So she sat in her living room chair, the same chair she used to read medical charts in, and listened. Not analytically, not to memorize, just listened. And Joel said something she would later write on a sticky note and keep on her bedside table for the rest of her life. When you stop trying to be strong, the real strength appears. That sentence cracked something open in her. She realized she had spent 40 years trying to be the strong one at work, at home, in every crisis. But in doing so, She had never learned how to rest in the deeper presence that was holding her even when her hands were trembling. So she tried something new. She put her hand over her heart and whispered, "Show me the strength that isn't mine. Not the strength of willpower, not the strength of pushing through, but the quiet, effortless strength Joel spoke about, the one that comes when you stop trying to control everything." Over the next few weeks, strange things began happening, not dramatic miracles, but subtle, unmistakable shifts. She stopped waking up with dread. She found herself breathing more slowly, more fully. Memories of her husband came without sadness, but with warmth. She felt guided to volunteer twice a week, something that would eventually reconnect her with purpose. Her days no longer felt empty. They felt full, but full of something invisible, something steady. One afternoon, while locking her front door, she paused. Tears rose not from grief, but from recognition. She whispered, "I'm not alone. I'm being carried." This wasn't imagination. It wasn't wishful thinking. It was awareness becoming aware of itself. This is what Joel meant when he spoke of the next step, not fixing life, not escaping life, but awakening within life. Joel taught that there are 3 stages of spiritual awakening. Stage 1, using spiritual awareness to relieve suffering. Stage 2, beginning to live from inner guidance moment by moment. Stage 3, living as the presence itself, without fear, without resistance. Most people never reach stages 2 or 3 because their spiritual practice stays external. They read books, they pray for help, they listen to talks, but they don't allow consciousness to become their foundation. But if you're listening right now, something inside you is ready for more. So what does it mean to live from awareness, not mind? It means you no longer ask, "How do I fix this?" But instead, "What is the truth behind this appearance?" You no longer say, "Why is this happening to me?" But instead, "What is this moment asking me to become aware of?" You no longer push against life. You soften into it. You enter a quiet cooperation with your own unfolding. This is not passivity. It is spiritual maturity. Joel often said, "Human will can only rearrange the pieces. Divine consciousness transforms the whole picture." You reach this stage when you begin trusting the inner presence more than your own mental strategies. Let me share another story, one many people over 55 understand deeply. His name was Anthony, a 58-year-old retired firefighter living in New Jersey. Strong, dependable, respected. The kind of man who could carry others through burning buildings, but didn't know how to carry his own private worries. When retirement came, the structure of his life disappeared. The adrenaline, the purpose, the camaraderie gone. And with quiet time came something he hadn't felt since childhood: anxiety. He felt restless, purposeless, guilty for not doing enough. He tried workouts, golf, even part-time consulting, but the emptiness in his chest remained. One day, while scrolling online late at night, he stumbled upon a line from Joel Goldsmith: "When human identity dissolves, spiritual identity appears." It irritated him. He didn't understand it, but he couldn't forget it. A week later, he listened to a talk where Joel explained, "You are not the role you played. You are not the uniform you wore. You are not the story the world told about you. You are the presence that lived through those stories." That hit him like a wave. For years he had believed his worth was tied to what he did, to his usefulness, to being needed. But suddenly he realized the presence within him, the part that was compassionate, brave, steady, didn't retire. That part was still alive. He didn't need a new identity. He needed to meet the self beneath identity. Over the next months, he learned to sit quietly each morning. No goals. No affirmations. Just listening. Not with ears, but with awareness. And he began sensing a subtle inner movement like a tide he could rest in. Guidance began appearing as simple nudges. A feeling to call an old friend. A nudge to take a walk. An intuition to speak to a young firefighter about mental health. Nothing forced, nothing dramatic. But through those small nudges, he found connection again. He became a mentor. He regained dignity. He rediscovered meaning. One morning, sitting outside with a cup of coffee, he whispered to himself, "The purpose was never the job. The purpose was what the job awakened in me, and that presence didn't retire." This is the essence of stage 2. Life begins guiding you from within, not through fear, but through presence. But Joel went further. He said the real transformation begins when you stop seeking spiritual experiences and begin living as the presence itself. Not occasionally. Not during meditation. Not only when life is peaceful, but in the ordinary, messy, unpredictable flow of daily living. Living as presence means that when someone speaks harshly, you respond from truth, not ego. When pain arises, you observe it instead of collapsing into it. When uncertainty appears, you rest in the awareness that does not fear. When your body ages, you treat it with kindness, not panic. When loneliness visits, you recognize that the presence within you is companionship itself. This is the stage where spirituality stops being something you practice and becomes something you are. Joel never wanted followers. He wanted awakeners, people who recognized the presence that lived as Joel lives as me. Let me share one more story, one that stays with people for years. Her name was Linda, 71 years old, living in Florida. She had spent decades searching books, retreats, meditation groups. She had spiritual knowledge but not spiritual peace. And then, one morning, during a very ordinary moment making tea in her kitchen, she had a realization, so simple that she dropped the spoon in her hand. She realized, "I've been trying to find God." While standing inside God, it wasn't a thought, it was awareness. The air felt different. The room felt different. Her body felt lighter. She didn't cry. She didn't laugh. She just stood still in a silence that felt alive. Joel once said, "God is not a destination. It is the ground beneath your feet." That morning, she understood. From that day on, she stopped forcing spiritual growth. She stopped striving. She stopped searching. She began living with a calm, steady awareness that the presence she once sought was the presence she was made of. This is stage 3, not an experience, not a moment, but a way of being. The past softens. Fear loosens. Time slows. Relationships deepen. Life becomes quieter, lighter, sweeter. And your heart finally rests. So how do you move into this next level? Joel gave one direction. Live every moment from the awareness that something deeper than thought is living you. When you walk, feel the presence walking. When you speak, feel the presence speaking through kindness. When you listen, feel the presence receiving the moment. When you sit alone, feel the presence embracing you. When you worry, feel the presence whispering, "I am here." This is not imagination. It is recognition. And the more you rest in this recognition, the more life begins unfolding with grace. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because you no longer depend on conditions to feel safe. You begin experiencing what Joel called effortless living, not lazy, not passive, but effortless, because the burden of carrying life is lifted from your shoulders and returned to the presence that was carrying you all along. So here, at the end of part 2, I leave you with the words Joel often murmured in meditation: "Be still, and know that I am here, in every breath, in every step, in every moment. You are not alone. You never were. Listen again. Let them settle." Because the presence speaking through those words is the presence living in you. If this message reached you, it was meant for you. If your heart whispered yes, comment, "I am transformed," like this video so it reaches someone who needs it. And subscribe for part 3, because there is more, much more. And it will take you deeper into the life Joel wanted you to discover. The life where you are no longer searching for the presence, but living as it.